Hello, welcome back to Chaotic Creatives, the show about embracing the chaos that comes from living a creative life.
We are your hosts, two self-proclaimed chaotic creative gals. I'm Lauren Hom, better known as Hom Sweet Hom on the internet. I am a designer, lettering artist, muralist, and chef.
And I'm Rachael Renee. I'm an artist, creativity coach, and your internet hype gal, and an author. I added that one. You have 4, I want 4.
What if we just keep adding progressively more each intro?
I love that. Like by the end, it's just like, I mean, we all are multi-hyphenate people. But like the intro of the podcast becomes like 10 minutes because we're just like listing all of our titles.
That would start trying to one-up each other.
Yeah. I'm an author too. I also published a book. Yeah.
It was just so long ago that I don't even use it anymore.
It's just not applicable anymore. Oh, man. Contrary to our giggly little intro, today we're talking about kind of creating while having low energy or not having the capacity to make the things that we want to make.
Yeah, we're talking about the gap between wanting to make a lot of things and having the ideas kind of swirling around in your brain, but not having the capacity to actually execute those ideas. This is slightly different than what we talked about at the end of season 3, where it was creating while grieving. Grief can absolutely be a part of being low energy.
Mm-hmm.
I think today we wanted to kind of like hone in on just the tension that happens and the frustration that a lot of chaotic creatives can feel when you have all these ideas and you just don't have the capacity to execute them, when like there's that little voice in your head that's like, but I want to do them all right now.
Yeah.
And I know we had a listener question last season or the season before that was about picking ideas when you have too many. But this one is just about a general like capacity doesn't match with the number of things you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like because I've been in such a chaotic state over the past year plus, and grieving has been a big part of my low energy state, but there's also other things happening, like, you know, general grieving the state of the world, relationships ending, like things that cause low energy for me personally, but then also recognizing that like sometimes even if I'm in a good headspace, I don't have the capacity. Maybe it's like work is busy or I have too many social commitments and like I don't get the chance to create what I want to create. And it's kind of like we wanted to talk about how that's normal and also how to move forward when you're the gap, like you called it, the gap between your capacity and your ideas. And I think this kind of started because I was talking with you about being low energy and how I hear myself talking about these ideas with my friends, anyone who will listen, about these ideas of things I want to make. And like the more I talk about it, it's like, okay, girlfriend, like make the thing now. But then it's like my body needs rest and my brain is like, yes, the idea is there, but like the energy is not there to execute it. But I don't want to be someone that only talks about ideas. Like ideating is only part of the process. It's the execution that makes us artists.
Yeah, and I think that this is the like tricky part about having big ideas, like launching a program or a course or having like a big art project that you want to take on, is it feels like you need big energy to execute the big project, when in reality, like life happens, right? We're going to go through lower energy seasons, whether that's for like health reasons or like emotional reasons. And doing things like slow progress towards the big thing is still progress. And it's not satisfying at all to like hear that. I know.
Yeah, there's literally a sign that you can't see, but it says progressing slowly is still progressing.
It's true. It's true.
It's still, you're moving it forward, and it doesn't feel as jazzy and as exciting as like completing a project.
Yeah, it's not sexy.
Yeah, but like that consistency is what's gonna make you hit that progression.
Yeah, absolutely.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, like we've been talking about systems, right? Like breaking down the bigger project into lots of little milestones.
Yeah.
And maybe, you know, a la like Rachael prioritizing playing, like maybe you can make them fun little milestones where you're like, okay, these are the different things I need to complete for this project. And like, can I stop here 10% of the way and like celebrate this win that I've
Yeah.
gotten it this far? I've come up with a name for the project. I bought the URL. Like, are there little things that would make me excited to feel like I've made progression on this project? I picked a color palette for it. Like, figure out the things that are going to give you like a little bit of a little jolt of like energy that might start to compound a little bit.
Yeah. We love that snowball energy. When you were describing that, like, can you do a little bit? It reminded me of a quilting project, because making a quilt for a lot of people feels really overwhelming. But for me, I love it because each step feels like a creative project. Picking the color palette, figuring out the pattern I'm going to use, cutting the fabric, and then sewing all those pieces together to make one block. Like, it's a very good project for like small wins. And then that compounds over time and you're like, oh my gosh, I made 5 blocks and now I have a whole row and now I can do this again. And then eventually it does become a final piece. But each step for me in that process is a small win in a project in itself. And so that feels really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I can absolutely see this. I don't know why I'm about to use a hiking metaphor or analogy, because I'm not a hiker. I mean, I have legs, I can walk, but it reminds me of how, like, when I break down like my passion project process, I oftentimes will tell my students, like, you kind of set these milestones because it's almost like you find good places to, like, as you're hiking along this like project road, you find good places to rest, right? Like these little places where it's like, okay, I bought the domain, I came up with the name, I designed the logo, and like that feels like a good place to like pause, and then I can pick it back up for the next piece.
Totally.
Because oftentimes, like, we've talked about this so many times, but having like a bunch of like half-finished projects laying around the house, totally normal. Some projects are harder than others to pick up depending on like where you left them off.
Yeah.
And I think a really like loving and generous thing we can do as chaotic creatives, as we become more accustomed to our own, like, our natural tendencies, is for like past us to leave projects in the most ideal states for future us to pick back up.
I like that. Yeah, like don't stop until you're at a good stopping point.
Yeah.
Like a good rest area. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that you use that analogy. That's so funny. It is also reminding me, like when you said the Rachael prioritize play. One of the things that I do talk about in that workshop, and that sort of like curriculum of prioritizing play to live your big juicy life, is like, we sometimes feel drawn to these big ideas. Like you said, big ideas take big energy. And when we don't have the capacity to like implement those big ideas, we might stop ourselves completely. So like the example that I used when I originally taught that workshop was like, I want to own a chateau in France and run an artist residency program. I still have never done an artist residency. I don't have the funds to buy a chateau. I still am not fluent in French. But all of those things can be broken down into smaller goals that I can be working toward that big one of like, okay, like I'm claiming this title of artist now, like doing this juice box program where I'm like building this structure for me to claim this title and building a body of work. That feels really great. And then I'm still taking French lessons. So that's something I'm working toward. And like, I have been doing more research on residencies and like I want to apply to some so that I can experience it. And so it's like a lot of our big ideas can be broken down into smaller tasks. And maybe it's just like renting a book from the library, renting. It is renting, but that sounds weird. Borrowing a book from the library.
I guess it's borrowing in the sense that there's nothing being traded. Renting implies, at least to me in the context of like renting an apartment, there's money being exchanged.
True. Okay. So taking out a library book.
There's no library landlord.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So you can make like, can you make your big juicy dream into like smaller, bite-sized, hey, I have low energy, tasks that could be maybe more playful, like maybe I just need to watch a movie in French if I'm feeling really tired, but it's
Mhm.
like still kind of serving that goal.
Yeah, like, are there other ways that you can at least have things have, like, whispers or, like, touches of like, a little
Mhm.
sprinkle,
Mhm.
of your big juicy goal? It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be the whole thing. It doesn't have to be this, like, "Okay, I'm gonna sit down and do planning and, like, sit down and work on this,
Mhm.
and if I don't have time to do that, then it's a wash."
Mhm.
You just have to do things that are related to the things you wanna accomplish, like, I think back to planning for culinary school and, like, loving cooking, like, this was, like, a goal that I worked towards slowly over time,
Yep.
and saving money and still cooking along the way, like, there was so much home cooking and just enjoying that led up to me being like, "I'm gonna invest the money and go to
Yeah, I
school."
do want to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing that's coming to mind, I'm sure I've said it on previous episodes, but like a lot of times people give up what they want most for what they want now. And so
Mm.
a long-term goal that we slowly chip away at is not as sexy or flashy or exciting as like I'm going to give up my weekend and make a quilt. Like, yeah, I've done that and that feels really good, but it's also not sustainable to do that a lot. It has to be like, oh, I'm building this quilt over time in my spare time. Like I have 10 extra minutes
Yeah.
to do this. And so I think it's more about building the habits, again, the systems that like, okay, if I know I'm low energy, could I, when I'm in a good headspace or have a lot of energy, can I make a list of things that I could still be working on from a low energy state?
Mhm.
Like from the couch, what can I do? Can I design my logo from the couch?
Mhm.
Can I watch a movie in French? Um, yeah, I I feel like even though like I give that framework and talk about it so much, like when it's a new big juicy goal for me, I like to talk about it a lot and then love to stop myself from starting because it feels big and overwhelming, but I just need to take my own advice.
It's easier said than done.
Yeah. Just got to talk about it on the podcast and come to that realization.
I mean, this podcast has been good, like, accountability and, like, a good, check-in for sure.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, like, I feel like we're, like, workshopping things kind of in real time a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. When we were chatting about this topic, you were like, creative entrepreneurs, like we're not doing things just to get to the end goal. Like the reason, like we have a bunch of ideas, and if we wanted to just get these ideas made, we would hire a team.
Yes, because when we were talking earlier, there's this frustration when you have all these ideas, but you don't have the capacity to get them done, and even though it's frustrating, it's just nice to know that, like, that tension is always going to be there.
Mhm.
Like, we've mentioned this before, but it's the very classic, like, Ira Glass, like, skill gap
Mhm.
that a lot of newer creatives feel, where it's like your skills have not caught up with your taste, and you're just kinda like, like, I know what I like, but I can't make it yet."
Yeah.
And this is the, like, capacity version of that, where you might be a little bit more seasoned of a creative person now, and you have these bigger like goals and dreams that you actually have the skills to execute. You just don't have the capacity right now. And what I said earlier was, as someone who's been running a business as a creative person for like over a decade, I think the main difference between like an entrepreneur and an artist is that entrepreneurs have an idea. They're like, oh, here's a goal, here's a problem to solve. And they hire a team and they get it solved
Mhm.
ASAP. And that is like satiating to them. For artists and like more creative, creatively inclined people, it's not about getting the things done as fast as possible or getting the problem solved for as many people as possible ASAP. It's about like, it's about the journey, man.
Riding the wave, man.
Like, we want to figure it out ourselves. We
Yeah.
want to enjoy the process. Like what you were saying, if we wanted to get all of our our biggest, juiciest ideas done, we could outsource all of that.
Mhm.
Like, if we had enough money, we could do it, or we could get investors to make our big, juicy ideas
Sure.
happen. That's not satisfying to a lot of us. Like, the reason that you quilt or like I learned to like build a dining table isn't so you could have a quilt or I
Mhm.
could have a table. You can buy a quilt. I
Mhm.
can buy a table. It's to learn how to do it and to like be curious about the process. And
Mhm.
I think that we want to actually take the time to like savor the process.
Yeah.
And as frustrating as it is when you don't have the energy to do it, even though you have the desire to do it, you just have to know that like, it's okay. Like I'll do a little bit, whatever I have the capacity for right now, I'll just do a little bit at a time. And me enjoying the process and being a part of the process intimately is what I want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think something that I say frequently is it's about the process, not the product, because like a lot of my creative practices are more about the like reflection and the learning that happens when I'm doing a creative
Yeah.
project. Cause I'm not, a production potter, or I'm not selling my quilts. Like it's really not about the product. It's about the care and like learning that goes into it for me. And obviously that's not the case with every person. But I think I like that what you said about like artists aren't just in it for the final product. Like we have that curiosity and that like approach to figuring something out, like the creative problem solving, I think is a big part of being a chaotic creative. Because if we wanted a quilt or a dining table, we could buy one, and that's not the problem we're solving. The problem we're solving is like, how do I figure this out? What are the steps? How can I learn something new? How can I challenge and feel that friction and grow from this experience? And like, it would be sick to have a cool product at the end, but that's not the only reason. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, for the same reason that like anyone who is running a business based on their creative skills isn't in it to make as much money as possible. Like
Totally.
it's amazing if you're making a ton of money,
Yeah.
but no one got into it for that. We would have chosen something else if money was the main goal. And I think that, it's fun to figure out the answers to your own questions, even if it takes longer than you think it's going to.
Yeah.
And that's just like a frustrating part of the process. Like there's always going to be more ideas than there's time for.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other thing of like, you do have to just pick one at some point and give it a try. I like your advice of just doing the small, tiny thing that's related to your goal. And even if it's like inching towards the thing you want to do, it's still helpful.
Yeah. And I think, naming the big goals, I think is really important, because I think so many of people like us like yearn for something big. But then if we never name it, we can never like kind of start working in a winding path toward that goal. So like, I don't expect that I will own a chateau residency program, even in the next 5 years. But if that is something that I'm working toward sort of subconsciously, and like, how can I align my smaller goals with that? Naming the big thing first, like creating a body of work. Like I've been talking about that for a while. Like last season on the podcast, I was like, I want a portfolio, and in an earlier episode, I talked about that. And so it's like doing that is still serving that bigger goal. One of the other goals that I talk about I have two others that I used when I created the Prioritize Play workshop. One was write a book, did it. Amazing. Please buy it. And the second one is have a solo art show, which I haven't done yet, but like I'm feeling more and more confident about like, okay, I'm creating a body of work and I have some commentary that I want to kind of share. And I don't know what an art show looks like besides like, I want to make a little card that they can read something and then like interpret this in this way or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think like by talking about it when I didn't have capacity, it like, I'm almost like, I know I'm a verbal processor. You all know I'm a verbal processor. So like me talking about it so much, I'm annoying myself. It's like the marketing episode that we did last time. But me talking about it so much is like convincing myself like, yes, I do want this. And I'm annoyed with myself that I don't have capacity to like create all of these things all at once, but created this system within this community to like create this stuff over time that will fit into this goal of like, I want to be an artist who makes things.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Prioritize Play, the book, my book, is available for pre-order, and I'm so excited to share it with you. It officially comes out June 9th, but you can pre-order it now. You can pre-order the ebook, the physical book, or even the audiobook, which I will be reading. Exciting. And I'm just really excited to get this in your hands. It's everything that has been my story of prioritizing play and how I got to become this artist and creativity coach that you know today. It has creative challenges, it has play challenges, 5-minute challenges, it has reflection prompts and exercises to do to help you prioritize your play and figure out how to live your big, juicy life. Foster deeper connection, build confidence, find your creativity, and express it. So pre-order it today. I'm so excited to share this with you.
Based on that art show example, it's also like we talked about, like breaking it down into smaller goals too. Like, even though you don't know anything about the art world and I don't know much either, like you can kind of figure out like, okay, like I would need to learn about, like I would need to build a body of work and have examples. And you're already starting to do that.
Mhm.
Like you would have to get to know like galleries and spaces and even know about like renting spaces. And we've done that for our workshop.
Yep.
Like you're starting to do things that are at least related to
Mhm.
what it would take to put on a production
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
You already host your own like parties. Like you could even say something like hosting soup gala is a tiny step in that direction.
Yeah. I
Um,
think that's a really good point because, something like a creative birthday party is me being like, hey, this is how things are normally done, but I want to do it a different way. And that's okay for me. Like, if an art show for me means that I rent a space and I pay for it and like I'm not making any money, but I get to have people come and have this experience, amazing.
oh,
Like, it's
yeah.
more about that for me than like, some art collector sees something that I made and like pays me money. I don't know. I don't know how that works. And I just like I'm going in with the expectation that like the things that I make are not to be, I mean, they can be sold, sure, pay me, but I'm not making them with the intention of like, this is a piece that a collector will buy because it will, you know,
Mm.
it's less that. It's more like I need to make these things to experience the process and to like get these ideas that are like churning inside me out and yeah, just like create this experience that I'm envisioning.
Nice.
All the things that we're doing are yeah, kind of helping informing. I mean, that's why I talk about like trying things, prioritizing play, try stuff because what you learn from, taking a workshop about turning trash into sustainable sculpture, something that we've taught,
Mhm.
taking a workshop on that might inspire you to be like, oh, yeah, like I didn't necessarily need to make a sculpture, but like I learned that plaster was more approachable, or I met somebody at this workshop that I can connect with now. Like there's always going to be something that we can take away from these things that we try, but if we don't push ourselves a little bit to try, and maybe push beyond our capacity a little bit sometimes, I mean, you were talking about that with you were tired and you met someone who turned into
Oh my God.
a great relationship because you were like, I could have stayed home, but I didn't. I don't know if
Yeah.
you feel comfortable
Yeah.
talking about that.
It's funny because it's only one example though. Like
Yeah.
I think so often I do abide by the like honor your capacity, like this is what you have the energy for.
Yeah.
The story that Rachel is referencing is someone that I'm dating, I met at a friend's book launch party, and the the person whose book it is invited me personally, and I said I would go. And the day comes around, and I was in culinary school. I'm so tired from school. I'm sitting on the couch with my roommate, and he goes, even I know you said you were going to go, but you look really tired, and you should honor your capacity. He'll understand.
Yeah.
And I like Midwest dadded myself into
Yeah.
going. I said, no, I'm going to do what I said I was going to do.
Well, and I think that that's where this topic, I mean, not that particular story, but that is something like that frustration of like me talking about it and saying I'm going to do it. I want to be a person that does what I say.
Yeah.
And I've been talking about some of these creative ideas for like a couple of years. And I'm like, bitch, make it then. Like, stop talking about it. Like, I'm annoying myself. And so I'm like, you've made other things. Like you're making excuses at this point. So it's like less about capacity, but that's an excuse that I'm using. So I feel like building the like practice, like the studio practice of making the things is important to me and why I've committed to that goal for 2026. Because it's like, yeah, I might be tired. And like, could I use the tiredness as an excuse to not make something? For sure. And there is a time and place for actually resting and creating space for creativity. But then there's also a place, and maybe it's, you going to this book launch party for pushing past our capacity a little bit and like doing the thing that we say we're going to do. And sometimes that takes, frustration and annoyance and a little bit more exhaustion, but like ultimately is worth it.
There's always going to be a trade-off. I would say that like 99 out of 100 times whenever I've pushed past it, like nothing magical happens necessarily.
Sure.
But yeah, we're always going to be, it goes back to the what is gained, what is lost. Like
that's the theme of this. That and systems is the theme of this season.
Yeah, like there is always going to be a trade-off. Like if you honor your capacity and you rest, like, yeah, you might miss out on like a push of like making progress on your project. Like you might miss out on meeting someone, meeting and like missing out on an opportunity, but that's also okay. Like there will be more down the road.
Totally. Yeah.
And if you decide to push past your like, maybe you're like, oh, I'm tired, but like it's like what people talk about with like going to the gym or like any kind of workout practice. It's like, even if you don't want to and you do, people are like, oh, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah. And I think like that is something that I've realized, where if I can get myself up and go to the ceramic studio, for example, or if I'm like, you have just give 10 minutes to a sewing project, I do usually feel better. But yeah, it's a balance. I think, we talked about being over capacity or overcommitted in previous episodes. And I think it's just something that I'm always going to be navigating as someone who like wants a big juicy life and like wants it to be full, bursting with the juice.
About to pop,
dripping. Yep, I'm going to go there.
Great. That I just thought of some like practical advice to follow your bursting dripping. I was just thinking about how in like past lectures I've given and stuff, I oftentimes use the analogy of a stovetop when it comes to like what you've kind of like got on the burners. And I think it relates to this conversation because oftentimes, depending on what you have capacity for, like it's nice to have a couple different things where, okay, if I'm high energy, like obviously I can do this, this, and this, but it's nice to have like maybe like what you were saying, a couple like one or two low energy like simmer tasks.
Simmers in the background.
Yeah, like where it's like, okay, I don't have a lot of energy or time or whatnot, capacity. Here are things that I can do that these are like slow burn projects that I can just kind of pick up, put down whenever. They're easy to start up and easy to put down, where I'm making slow progress. It's like, I'm trying to think of an example.
I have an example. Okay. When the last cohort of the Prioritized Play workshop I did before putting it in the juice box was, we had, in one of our group calls, we were talking about like leaving your projects out so that they're easily accessible. Like my painting stuff is behind us and I don't have an easel out. Like it feels like a bigger challenge to overcome to like get my paints and brushes and everything out. And so we were talking about like leaving your stuff out and like, getting a cute basket for one of the gals in the cohort was doing embroidery, just keeping it out and it's on the coffee table and like it can still be organized in that basket on the coffee table, but it's easy to grab. And then another person said, having non-zero days is the goal. So it's not like the goal is to like complete the project and do something huge every day, but can you do something, some kind of non-zero day? And so I feel like what you're talking about is like making it accessible for yourself, like making it whether that's like making a list of things that you could potentially do or like literally leaving your project out so that it's like the barrier to starting again is.
Yes, I like to have like, as a chaotic creative, I usually have multiple things going on,
Mhm.
and it's not always strategic. It just always ends up this way where there's usually a project that is something like that where it's out or I can pick it up and like make a couple snips or do a couple things and put it back down and it's fine.
Mhm.
Um, and then there are projects where like maybe it's like the paper pulp or the or ceramics where the barrier to get started is a lot higher. Like
Mhm.
whether it's getting set up on a wheel or
Mhm.
going to the studio, or like actually having to store like perishable or like materials
Mhm.
that it's I need to be in a higher energy, more focused like chunk of time. Like I need to have a half day set aside to work on this type of project,
Mhm.
like intense focus. And those kinds of projects aren't always accessible to me like on a weeknight or like,
Sure.
so it's nice to have a couple different things that you, depending on your capacity, you can reach for.
Yeah, and also I'm going to challenge you on the I need a huge chunk of time for this because that is how I always feel about ceramics, where it's like I have to go to the studio and spend at least a couple of hours there. Like I'm driving to the studio, I'm getting set up, clay's messy, it takes a while. Um and then I timed myself a couple of times and in like 30 minutes I was able to get like quite a bit done in terms of like, hand building something or trimming or I don't know, rolling some slabs or something. And I feel like I was putting this pressure on myself of like, I need a whole day at the studio to be able to get progress. And so, and I'm in that state right now where I'm like, well, I could go there, but then like I have to come back by this time for this meeting. So like I actually shouldn't go. When it actually, I think, takes less time than we think it does.
I think it depends on your workflow. Like
That's
for
true.
me, I'm very
Yeah.
slow with
Yeah. Fair.
ceramics. I
Fair.
don't do any production
Mhm.
ceramics
Mhm.
whatsoever. And like you're someone who's like sold stuff and made stuff for markets.
Yeah. That's
You do wheel stuff too.
a really
I do
fair.
no wheel stuff.
Yep.
I do
Okay.
very time intensive hand building.
Yes. Yes.
So I think I think it's what's important for the listener is it doesn't really matter the medium. You could be the slowest like collager. It doesn't really matter what the medium is. It's important for you to maybe look at the kind of projects you want to work on that fall into the like what are the skills I'm trying to hone? What are my goals? And have one like, okay, this is the kind of project that I know I want a day for.
Mhm.
This is the kind of project that maybe a couple hours I'd like for this. This is the kind of project that if I have 30 minutes, this is my 30-minute project.
Mhm.
And so you have a couple different options to reach
Yeah.
for depending on how you're feeling because you never know how you're going to feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so at least you have none of those 0 days. Is that what it is? Non-zero days?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And like you could go even like further down the time commitment scale of like, do you have 5 minutes? Can you buy a ceramic book? And like, okay, you don't have time to go to the studio. You don't have time to do 30 minutes of trimming like I would do. But like, if you have 5 minutes between a meeting, can you like read about a new glaze? Like learning is part of the creative process too. And so I think we convince ourselves that if we're not actively making or producing or, getting dirty and working on one of our projects, that we're not making forward progress. But like learning and researching, and I mean, there's the trap of like ideating for too long and saving a million things in your saved folders, and then you never actually start, which we've talked about
Yeah.
before. And I think that's the chaotic creative way. So it's like truly non-zero days. What are you actually doing?
I have some practical advice. I was just thinking about like this an imaginary person going like, but what about this? I'm thinking back to
Me being like, let me challenge that.
No, like I'm thinking back just to all of the different styles of like lifestyles and ways that people fit creative projects in. And I was thinking about the kind of person who like only does have 5 or 10 minutes here and there in between life stuff. And I find it really challenging. Like I am personally like a longer focused kind of person. Like I have a hard time with short form content. Like obviously this podcast is like
Yeah.
almost an hour long, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm a long form content kind of gal. And
We love nuance.
yeah, I think that if you are someone who only has short like sprints of time, let's say less than an hour, or if you're having a reaction to like, ooh, like I can't do anything in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, what was helpful for me when I was working full time and I really did only have those smaller chunks like commutes. I was living in New York, so I could draw on the subway. No, I wasn't drawing while I was driving. But I guess you can do stuff while you're driving. Not, I'm going to give a caveat. One thing that's helpful if you only have small chunks of time and you want to take steps towards your bigger goals, and to avoid this frustration of like ideas, like no capacity, is pick one bigger like goal or one bigger project to work on and figure out what small tasks you can do in those smaller chunks of time that serve that bigger goal. So you're doing one goal and the little tasks are all broken up to serve that goal. So for example, when I was working full time, all of my time and energy outside of work was spent thinking about like my passion project, which was daily dishonesty. I would brainstorm phrases in between meetings. I would do sketches on the subway train while I was like waiting for the train to come. And these were in like, anywhere between 5 and 30-minute kind of spurts. And I was able to work on that project in those chunks in that way without a lot of like longer periods of work time. And I say this because, especially in 2025, like it's easy to have very fragmented attention. If you're doing 5 minutes on one goal, 5 minutes on another, 5 minutes on this one, I think, especially with like a chaotic creative brain, it can be even more frazzling. So my recommendation is if you do, hi, Miss Kitty, if you do have a limited amount of time or only small bits of time, it would be best to pick one thing and then do your little chunks in service of that one thing.
Yeah. I think like that's why I structured the juice box in this like 3-month container of one focus area, because I do that. Like I have a bunch of different goals for all of these things. And then it's like, okay, am I making progress toward any of these if I'm pulled in all these different directions? So like, okay, ceramics is my primary focus. So I want all of those little tasks to be in service of that. Yeah, I think that's great to like give yourself the tools to succeed by focusing and recognizing that like that doesn't mean you can never revisit other things.
Yes.
Like we are always going to be revisiting a lot of things because we're chaotic creatives. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to accomplish anything, you have to have some kind of focus. It doesn't mean forsaking everything else. It just means like, usually means picking something that you like to the best of your knowledge are excited about. And usually excitement is a pretty good gateway to like being engaged in it for at least a season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're coming up on
it's time. Yeah. That was good. I feel motivated to make my friggin' things. Yeah. Wow, low energy time for me has been happening a lot in the past year. But also like I guess let's end on this note. It feels like we're not making progress, but when we actually look back and see like, oh, I did make 4 quilts last year and I did produce this like
you wrote a book during your low energy year.
I did write a book. Thank you for that reminder.
Yeah.
Wow.
You wrote a book and it's because it's something you're passionate about and excited about even during your low energy season.
Yeah. Yeah. I care so much about it. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for that reminder. Because
You're welcome.
that has come like fairly, like it's obviously taken a lot of work to make a book happen. And I'm learning so much as a first time author, but it has all been so exciting that it doesn't feel like it's hard to remember that like, oh yeah, I had to sit down and write and do edits and do illustrations and, have meetings. And yeah, that happened too. So thank you for that reminder. So yeah, reflect, have your friends remind you of the things you've accomplished and look back and be like, oh yeah, I did do this. Like that's part of being your own hype pal, like we talked about in the last episode. Yeah.
Like everything takes effort, but some things do feel lighter than others. And it's important to pay attention to that.
Yeah. We want to do more of the light things. Yeah. Okay. Let's wrap up. As always, you can support us on Patreon. Thank you to our patrons who help support the production of this podcast. We are self-produced. And if you cannot monetarily support us, totally understandable, but we would love if you could leave us a rating or review, share an episode with someone who you think might benefit from it.
Share it with your lowest energy friend. Just kidding.
Yeah. Tell your depressed friend to get off their ass and make something. No, please don't do that. Give them love. Ask them what they need.
We make the thumbnail for this YouTube video like a parody of like one of those like grind set YouTube videos of like, I wake up at 6 a.m.
Yeah, here's how I biohack through my depression.
It's just bulletproof coffee.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You got to be the face of that.
Yeah.
It'd be more believable.
Yeah. I do put cacao butter in my coffee.
Yum.
Sometimes when I'm making a fancy little nice thing. Yeah, if your friend is depressed, make them food and give them a hug. That's probably what they need.
Tell them they're doing okay.
Yeah. See you next time.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.